ॐ गणनान्त्वा गणपतिगं मवामहे कविं कवीनामुपवश्रवस्त्रमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणान् ब्रह्मणस्पत आनुशृण्वोति विश्रीदसादनम् ॐ महागणाधिपतये नमः। ॐ केशवाय नमः, ॐ नमः, ॐ माधवाय नमः, ॐ गोविन्दाय नमः, ॐ विष्णुवे नमः, मत्सूदराय नमः, त्रिविक्रमाय नमः, वामनाय नमः, वामसूत्राय नमः, त्रिविक्रमाय नमः, वामनाय नमः, श्रीकेशाय नमः, पद्मनाभाय नमः, दामोदराय नमः, संकर्षणाय नमः, वासुदेवाय नमः, प्रद्युम्नाय नमः, अनिरुद्धाय नमः, पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः, दोक्षाय नमः, नारसिंहाय नमः, अच्युताय नमः, जनार्दनाय नमः, उपेन्द्राय नमः, हरे नमः, श्री कृष्णाय नमः. These are the 24 names of Lord Krishna. We are chanting that because it is all a story of Krishna and Narayana. Yesterday, we read the chapter of Jaya Vijaya episode. Parikshita Maharaja, Maharishi, gives his conclusions concerning how Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana, although the super soul, friend and protector for everyone, killed the Daityas and demons for the sake of Indra, the king of heaven. In his statements, he totally refutes the arguments of people in general who accuse the Supreme Lord is taking partiality. Shukra Maharshi proves that because the body of the conditioned soul is infected by the three qualities of nature, the dualities arise such as enmity, friendship, attachment, and detachment. For the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, there are no such dualities. Even eternal time cannot control the activities of the Lord. Eternal time is created by Lord and it acts under his control. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana, therefore, is always transcendental to the influence of the modes of the nature, Maya, of the local, of the materialistic life. His potency is always transcendental. Influence of the modes of nature, Maya, the Lord's external energy, which acts in creation and annihilation. Thus, all the demons killed by the Supreme Lord attain salvation immediately also. The demons were also given moksha. The second question raised by Parikshit Maharaja concerns how Shishupala, although inimical toward Krishna from his very childhood and always talking against Krishna and cursing Krishna and accusing Krishna for one thing or the other, also attained salvation. In oneness with Krishna killed him. In front of all the big sabha of Rajya Suya Yajna, Shishupala keep on cursing Krishna. And Krishna has given promise to his Shishupala's mother that they are relations. That's why he counted the mistakes of up to 108. If he makes 108 mistakes, and then he will take punishment. And that's what he did. He did keep on cursing Krishna one after the other, one after the other. Then in the end, Krishna used this Sudarshan Chakra to finish Shishupala. But even the Shishupala, after the death of the Shishupalas with the Sudarshan Chakra, his Atma, soul, came like a small sparkling light, came and absorbed into the Krishna. And this is what Yudhishthira was surprised, because Yudhishthira saw that, but only few people have seen that what happened to his Atma. He's, he merged with the Lord Krishna's body by his light. That's why everybody was asking, the Dharmaraja was asking Narada why this happened. That comes in this chapter, what we did yesterday. Shukadeva Maharshi explains, because of their offenses at the feet of devotees, at the feet, and to attendants of the Lord in Vaikuntha named Jaya Vijaya became Hiraynakashipu and Hiranaksha in Satya Yuga, Ravana and Kumbhakarna in the next Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Shishupala and Dantavakra at the end of Dwapara Yuga. Because of their fruitive acts, Jaya and Vijaya agreed to become the Lord's enemies. And when killed in that circumstances, they attained salvation, moksha, in oneness with Lord Krishna. Thus, even if one thinks of the Supreme Personality Godhead in enmity and are accusing him because they're chanting the name of Krishna, Narayana. That's how they attain salvation. Whether they curse Narayana, whether they appreciate Narayana, he treats everybody equal. The Supreme Lord Narayana treats everybody equal, and he is equal to everyone. Devotees who always engage in Lord's service with love and faith. This is the chapter we studied yesterday. Now we are going to the second chapter, where in which we are going to read about Hiraynakashipu, episode of Hiraynakashipu. Hiraynakashipu is the king of demons. As described in this chapter, after the annihilation of Hiranyaksha, Hiranyaksha is the younger brother of Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu is the senior one, bigger brother. Hiranyaksha is the younger brother. And Hiranyaksha was killed in Varaha with Narayana became Varaha to kill Hiranyaksha. Because of his brother Hiranyaksha was very much aggrieved. Because of Hiranyaksha's death, Hiranyakashipu reacted very sinfully by trying to diminish the religious activities of people in general. However, he instructed his nephews and about history just to diminish their agreement. When the Supreme Personality of God appeared as the boar and killed Hiranyakashipu's brother Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu was very much angry. In that angerness, he accused Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana of being partial to his devotees and derided the Lord's appearance as Varaha to kill his brother. He began to agitate all the demons and Rakshasas and disturb the ritualistic ceremonies. That's what we are going to read this story of Hiraynakashipu today. But the summary I'm giving you a few sentences before. He began to, for want of performance of yajna, sacrifice of the gods, began wandering unseen on earth. He stopped all the ritualistic and yajna, agadi run by the saints and bhaktas. After finishing the ritualistic funeral ceremonies of his brother, Hiraynakashipu began speaking to his nephews, quoting from the Shastras about the truth of life. To pacify his brother's sons, he spoke as follows: My dear nephews, for heroes to die before the enemy is glorious. According to their different fruitive activities, living entities come together within this material world and are again separated by the laws of nature. Hiranyakashipu is telling his brother's children. We should always know, however, that the spirit soul, which is different from the body, is eternal, inadjustable, pure, all-pervading and aware of everything. When bound by the material energy, the soul takes birth in the higher or lower species of life according to varying association, and in this way receives various types of bodies in which to suffer or enjoy. One's affliction by the conditions of material existence is the cause of happiness and distress. There are no other causes, and one should not aggrieve upon seeing the superficial actions of karma. Hiranyakashipu then related a historical incident concerning the king Suyajna, who resided in the country named Ushinara. When the king was killed, his queens, overwhelmed with grief, received instructions which Hiranyakashipu quoted to his nephews. Hiranyakashipu related an account of Kulinga, bird, pierced by the arrow of a hunter while lamenting for his wife, who had also been shot by the same hunter. By narrating these stories, Hiranyakashipu pacified his nephews and other relatives and relieved them from lamentation. Thus, having been pacified, Diti and Rushabhanu, Hiranyakashipu's mother and sister-in-law, Diti and Rushabhanu, Hiranyakashipu's mother and sister-in-law, engaged their minds in spiritual understanding. Sri Narada Uvacha. This chapter starts with the Narada Uvacha. Narada Uvacha starts. Bhrataryevam vinahate Harina Krodamurtina Hiranyakashipu Rajarnayat Pradashachucha. Narada is telling, Narada Muni said, my dear King Yudhishthira, when Lord Vishnu in the form of Varaha, the boar, killed Hiranyaksha, Hiranyaksha's brother Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry and began to lament. Filled with a rage and angerness, biting his lips, Hiranyakashipu gazed at the sky with eyes and that blazed in anger, making the whole sky smoky. Thus he began to speak. As usual, the demon is envious of the Supreme Personal Godhead Narayana and inimical toward him. These were Hiranyakashipu's external bodily features as he considered how to kill Lord Vishnu and devastate his kingdom, Vaikuntha. So he decided to kill Narayana in the Vaikuntha, exhibiting his terrible teeth, fierce glands, and frowning eyebrows. Terrible to see, he looked up his weapon, a trident, and thus began speaking to his associates, the assembled demons. O Dhanavas and Daityas, O Vimugdha, Trasaka, Sambra, and Shatavahu, O Hayagriva, Namuchi, Paka, Hilvala, O Viprusati, Puloman, Sakuna, and other demons. All of you kindly hear me attentively and then act according to my words without delay. My insignificant enemies, the gods, have combined to kill my very dear and obedient well-wisher, my brother Hiranyaksha. Although the Supreme Lord Vishnu is always equal to both of us, namely the gods and demons, this time being devotedly worshipped by the gods, he has taken their side and helped them to kill Hiranyaksha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Narayana has given up his natural tendency of equality toward the demons and gods. Although he is Supreme Person now, influenced by Maya, he was assumed the form of a boar to please his devotees, the gods, just as restless child leans towards someone. I shall therefore sever Lord Vishnu's head from his trunk by my trident, and with the profuse blood from his body, I shall please my brother Hiranyaksha, who was so fond of sucking blood. Thus shall I too be peaceful. So Hiranyakashipu told everybody that he is going to kill Narayana or Vishnu. When the root of a tree is cut and the tree falls down, its branches and twigs automatically dry up. Similarly, when I have killed this diplomatic Vishnu, the other gods for whom Lord Vishnu is the life and soul will lose their source of their life wither away. The difference between the gods and the demons is here explained. The gods always follow the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas the demons simply plan to disturb or kill him. Nevertheless, sometimes the demons very much appreciate the full dependency of the demigods upon the mercy of the Lord. This is indirect glorification of demigods, of the demons. While I am engaged in the business of killing Lord Vishnu, go down to the planet Earth, which is flourishing due to Brahminical culture and a Kshatriya government. Those people engage in austerity, sacrifice, Vedic study, regulative vows, charity, and doing all yajna yagas, and destroy all those people who engaged. Hiranyakashipu's main purpose was to disturb the gods. He planned first to kill Lord Vishnu so that with Lord Vishnu's death, the gods would automatically weaken and die. Another of his plans was to disturb the residents of the planet Earth. The peace and prosperity of the residents of the Earth and all the other planets were maintained by the Brahmins and Kshatriyas. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha, according to the three modes of material nature and the work ascribed to him. The four divisions of human society were created by me. On all the planets, there are different types of residents, but the Lord recommends, referring especially to the planet Earth, which is inhabited by human beings. That society we divide into four Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Before the advent of Lord Krishna on this earth, it is understood that the earth is managed by the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. The duty of the Brahmanas is to cultivate samaha, peacefulness, damaha, self-control, titiksha, tolerance, satyam, truthfulness, shaucham, cleanliness, and arjavam, simplicity, and then to advise the Kshatriya kings how to rule the country of the planet. Following the instructions of the Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, and engage the populace in austerity, sacrifices, Vedic study, and adherence to the rules and regulations established by the Vedic principles. They should also arrange for charity to be given to the Brahmanas, sannyasis, and temples. This is the godly arrangement of the Brahmanical culture. People are inclined to offer yajna because unless sacrifices are offered, there will be insufficient rain. Yajnat bhavati parjanya, which will hamper agricultural activities. Parjanya anna sambhavaha. By introducing Brahminical culture, therefore, a Kshatriya government should engage people in performing yajna, studying the Vedas, and giving charity. Thus, the people will receive their necessities for life very easily, and there will be no disturbance in society. In this regard, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, in charge of various necessities of life, the gods being satisfied by the performance of yajna, sacrifice, supply all necessities to man. But he who enjoys these gifts without offering them to the gods, in turn, is certainly a thief. The gods are authorized supplying agents who act on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Therefore, they must be satisfied by the performance of prescribed yajnas. In the Vedas, there are different kinds of yajnas prescribed for different kinds of gods, but all are ultimately offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna only. For one who cannot understand that the personality of Godhead is sacrificed to the gods is recommended. According to the different material qualities of the persons concerned, different types of yajnas are recommended in the Vedas. Worship of different gods is also on the same basis, namely, according to different qualities. For example, the meat eaters are recommended to worship the goddess Kali, the ghastly form of material nature, and before the goddess, the sacrifice of animals recommended in their own way. But for those in the mode of goodness, the transcendental worship of Vishnu is recommended. Ultimately, all yajnas are meant for gradual promotion to the transcendental position. For ordinary man, at least 5 yajnas known as Pancha Mahayajna are necessary. According to our Hindu Shastra, there is a Pancha Mahayajna. One should know, however, that all the necessities of the life that human society requires are supplied by the God agents of the Lord. No one can manufacture anything. Consider, for example, all the eatables of the human society. These eatables include grains, fruits, vegetables, milk, sugar for persons in the mode of goodness, and also eatables for the non-vegetarian such as meat, none of which can be manufactured by the man. Then again, take for example heat, light, water, and air, which are also necessities of the life. None of them can be manufactured by human society. Without the Supreme Lord, Krishna or Vishnu, there can be no profuse sunlight, moonlight, rainfall, or breeze, without which no one can live. Obviously, our life is dependent on supplies from the Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu. Even for our manufacturing enterprises, we require so many raw materials like metal, sulfur, mercury, manganese, and so many essentials, all of which are supplied in the agents of the Lord. With the purpose of that, we should make a proper use of them to keep ourselves fit and healthy for the purpose of self-realization, leading to ultimate goal of the life, namely liberation from the material struggle for existence. Liberation is the important aim. The aim of the life is to attain performance. Aim of the life is attained by performance of yajnas. If you forget the purpose of the human life and simply take supplies from the agents of the Lord for sense gratification and become more and more entangled in materialistic existence, which is not the purpose of the creation, certainly we become thieves, and therefore we are punished by the laws of material nature. A society of thieves can never be happy, for they have no aim in life. The gross materialist thieves have no ultimate goal of life. They are simply directed to sense gratification, nor do they have knowledge of how to perform yajnas. Lord Chaitanya, however, inaugurated the easiest performance of yajna, namely the Sankirtana yajna, which can be performed by anyone in the world who accepts the principles of, of Vaishnavism and Krishna consciousness. Hiraynakashipu planned to kill the inhabitants of the earth so that yajna would stop and the gods will be not getting uh, oblations to gods, would die automatically when Lord Vishnu, the Yajneshwara, was killed. These are the demonic plans of Hiranyakashipu, who was expert in such activities. The basic principles of Brahminical culture is to satisfy the Lord Vishnu, the personification of sacrificial and ritualistic ceremonies. Lord Vishnu is the personified reservoir of all religious principles, and he is the shelter of all the gods and the great Pitrus and the people in general, all the humanities. When the Brahmins are killed, no one will exist to encourage the Kshatriyas to perform yajnas, and thus the gods not being appeased by yajna will automatically die. That's what Lord Hiraynakashipu thinks. Immediately go wherever there is good protection of the for the cows and brahmanas, wherever the Vedas are studied in terms of Varnashrama principles, set the fire to those places and cut off from the roots of the trees there which are the source of life. The picture of a proper human civilization is indirectly described here. In a perfect human civilization, there must be a class of men fully trained as a perfect brahmanas. Similarly, there must be kshatriyas to rule the country, very nicely according to the injunctions of the Shastras, and there must be a Vaishyas who can protect the cows and look after the lands. The word Gao indicates cows should be given protection. Go Brahmane Shubham Bhavatu. We say Go is cows. Brahmana is the one who can perform the sacrifice yajna. Go Brahmana Shubham Bhavatu. In Shastra says, Govuglu, cows and Brahmins should be looked after properly. But instead, indiscriminately killed in slaughterhouse, such as the acts of demons. Therefore, this is a demonic civilization. Varnashrama dharma mentioned here is essential for human civilization. Unless there is a Brahmana to guide a Kshatriya to rule properly and a perfect Vaishya to produce food and look after the lands and cows, how will people live peacefully? It is impossible. So, thus the demons, being fond of disastrous activities, took Hiranyakashipu's instructions on their heads with a great respect and offered him obeisances. According to his directions, they engaged in envious activities directed against all living beings in the earth. The demons set fire to the cities, villages, pasturing grounds, cow pens, gardens, agricultural fields, and natural forests. They burned the hermitages of the saintly persons, the important mines that produce valuable metals, that residential quarters of the agriculturists, and the mountain villages and the villages of the cow protectors, the covermen. They also burned the government capitals. So Hiranyakashipu made his servants to do all this demonic activity. Some of the demons took digging instruments and broke down the bridges, the protective walls and gates of the cities. Some took axes and began cutting the important trees that produce mango, jackfruit, and other sources of food. Some of the demons took fire brands and set fire to the residential quarters of the citizens. Thus disturbed again and again by the unnatural occurrences caused by the followers of Hiranyakashipu, all the people had to cease the activities of Vedic culture. Not receiving the results of yajna, the gods also became disturbed. They left their residential quarters in the heavenly planets and, unobserved by the demons, began wandering on the planet Earth to see the disasters. After performing the ritualistic observances for the death of his brother, Hiranyakashipu, being extremely unhappy, tried to pacify his nephews. O King, Hiranyakashipu was extremely angry. But since he was a great politician, he knew how to act according to the time and situation. With sweet words, he began pacifying his nephews, whose names were Shakuni, Shambhara, Dristi, Bhuta Santapana consoled their mother, his sister-in-law Rishubhanu, as well as his own mother Diti. He spoke to them as follows. Hiraynakashipu says, "My dear mother, sister-in-law, and nephews, you should not lament for the death of the great hero, for a hero's death in the front of his enemy is glorious and desirable. My dear mother, in a restaurant or a place for drinking good cold water, many travelers are brought together, and after drinking water they continue to their respective destinations. Similarly, living entities join together in a family, and later, as a result of their own actions, they are led apart to their destination. The spirit soul, the living entity, has no death, for he is eternal and inexhaustible. Being free from the material contamination, he can go anywhere in the material or spiritual world. He is fully aware and different, completely different from the material body, but because of being misled by misuse of his slight independence, he is obliged to accept subtle and gross bodies created by the material energy and thus be subjected to so called material happiness and distress. Therefore, no one should lament for the passing of the spirit soul from the body. Because of the movements of the water, the trees on the bank of a river, when reflected on the water, seem to move. Similarly, when the eyes move because of some mental derangement, the land appears to move also. In the same way, O my gentle mother, when the mind is agitated by the movements of the modes of material nature, the living entity, although freed from all the different phases of the subtle and gross bodies, thinks that he has changed from one condition to another. In his bewildered state, the living entity, accepting the body and mind to be the self, considers some people to be his kinsmen and others to be outsiders. Because of this conception of he suffers indeed the accumulation of such concocted material ideas is the cause of suffering and so-called happiness in the material world. The conditioned soul, thus situated, must take birth in different species and work in various types of consciousness, thus creating new bodies. This continued material life is called samsara. Birth, death, lamentation, foolishness, and anxiety are due to such material consideration. Thus, we sometimes come to proper understanding and sometimes fall again to a wrong conception of life. In this regard, an example is given from an world history. This involves a discourse between a Yamaraja and the friends of dead person. Please hear it attentively. The story of a dead person and a Yamaraja. The words itihasam, Puranam mean an old history. The Puranas are not chronologically recorded, but the incidents mentioned in the Puranas are actually histories of bygone ages. Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapurana, the essence of all the Puranas. The Mayavadi scholars do not accept the Puranas, but Madhvacharya and all other authorities accept as the authoritative histories of the world. In the state known as Ushinara, there was a celebrated king named Suyajna. When the king was killed in a battle by his enemies, his kinsmen sat down around the dead body and began to lament the death of their friend. His golden bejeweled armor smashed, his ornaments and garlands fallen from their places, his hair scattered, and his eyes lustreless. The slain king lay on the battlefield, his entire body smeared with the blood, his heart pierced by the arrows of the enemy. When he died, he wanted to show his prowess, and thus he had beaten his lips, and his teeth remained in that position. His beautiful lotus-like face was now black and covered with the dust from this battlefield. His arms with his sword and other weapons were cut and broken. When the queens of the king of Ushinara saw their husband lying in that position, they began crying, "O Lord, now that you have been killed, we also have been killed." Repeating these words again and again, they fell down, pounding their breast at the feet of the Lord King, the dead king. As the queens loudly cried, their tears glided down their breasts, becoming reddened by kumkum powder, and fell upon the lotus feet of their husband. Their hair became disarrayed, their ornaments fell, and in a way that evoked sympathy from the hearts of the others. The queens began lamenting their husband's death. O Lord, you have now been removed by cruel providence to a state beyond our sight. You had previously sustained the livelihood of the inhabitants of Ushinara, the town or city, and thus they were happy. But your condition now is the cause of their unhappiness. O King, O hero, you were a very grateful husband and the most sincere friend of all of us. How shall we exist without you? O hero, wherever you are going, please direct us. There is so that we may follow in your footsteps and engage again in your service. Let us go along with you. Formerly, a Kshatriya king was generally the husband of many wives, and after the death of the king, especially in a battlefield, all the queens would go, agree to accept Sahamarana, dying with the husband, who was their life. When Pandu Maharaja, the father of Pandavas, died, his two wives, namely the mother of Yudhishthira, Bhima and Arjuna, and the mother of Nakula and Sahadeva, were both ready to die in the fire with their husband. Later, after compromise be arranged, Kunti stayed alive to care for the children, and the other wife, Madri, was allowed to die with her husband. This system of Saha Marana continued in India even until the time of British rule. But later it was discouraged since the attitude of wives gradually changed with the advancement of Kali Yuga. Thus, the system of Sahamarana or Sahagamana was practically been abolished. Nevertheless, when the past 50 years, I have seen the wife of medical practitioner voluntarily accept death immediately when her husband died. Both the husband and wife were taken in the procession in the mourning cart. Such intense love of a chaste wife for husband is still a special case sometimes seen in the modern world. The time was appropriate for the body to be burned, but the queens, not allowing it to be taken away, continued lamenting for the dead body when they kept on their laps. In the meantime, the sun completed its movements for setting in the west. While the queens were lamenting for the dead body of the king, their loud cries were heard even from the abode of Yamaraja. Assuming the body of a boy, Yamaraja personally approached the relatives of the dead body and advised them as follows. So Yamaraja says, "Alas, how amazing it is! These persons who are older than me have full experience that hundreds and thousands of living entities have taken birth and died. Thus they should understand that they also are apt to die, yet still they are bewildered. The conditioned soul comes from an unknown place and returns after the death to the same unknown place. There is no exception to the rule, which is conducted by material nature. Knowing this, why do they uselessly lament? It is wonderful that these elderly women do not have a higher sense of life than we do. Indeed, we are most fortunate, for although we are children and have been left to struggle in material life, unprotected by father and mother, and although we are very weak, we have not been vanquished or even or eaten by ferocious animals. Thus, we have a firm belief that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has given us protection even in the womb of the mother, will protect us everywhere. The boy addressed the woman. O weak woman, only by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is never diminished is the entire world created, maintained, and gain annihilated. This is the verdict of the Vedic knowledge. This material creation, consisting of the moving and non-moving, is exactly like his plaything. By the Supreme Personality of Lord Narayana, he is completely competent to destroy and protect. Sometimes one loses his money on a public street where everyone can see it, and yet his money is protected by destiny and not being by others. Thus, the man who lost it gets it back. On the other hand, if the Lord does not give protection, even money maintained very securely at home is also lost. If the Supreme Lord gives one protection, even though one has no protector and is in the jungle, one remains alive. Whereas the person well protected at home by relatives and others sometimes dies, no one being able to protect him. Every conditioned soul receives a different type of body according to his work. When the engagement is finished, the body is finished. Although the spirit soul is situated in subtle and gross material bodies in different forms of life, he is not bound by them, for he is always understood to be completely different from the manifested body. Just as a householder, although different from the identity of his wife, house, thinks his house to be identical with him, so the conditioned soul, due to ignorance, accepts the body to be himself, although the body is actually different from the soul. This body is obtained through combination of portions of the earth, water, and fire, and then when the earth, water, and fire are transferred in the course of the time, the body is vanquished. The soul has nothing to do with this creation and dissolution of the body. As fire, as fire, although situated in wood, is perceived to be different from the wood, as air, although situated within the mouth and nostrils, is perceived by separate, and as the sky, although pervading, never mixes with anything, so the living entity, although now engaged within the material body of which it is the source, is separate from it. Amaraja continued, O lamenters, you are all fools. The person named Suyajna, for whom you lament, is still lying before you and has not gone anywhere. Then what is the cause for your lamentation? Previously he heard you and replied to you, but now not finding him, you are lamenting. This is contradictory behavior, for you have never actually seen the person within the body who heard you and replied. There is no need for your lamentation, for the body you have always seen in lying there. In the body, the most important substance is the life air, but that also is neither the listener nor the speaker. Beyond even the life air, the soul also can do nothing, for the super soul is actually the director in cooperation with the individual soul. The super soul conducting the activities of the body is different from the body and living force. The five material elements, the 10 senses, and the mind all combine to form the various parts of the gross and subtle bodies. The living entity comes in contact with his material bodies, whether high or low, and later gives them up by his personal prowess. This strength can be perceived in living entities' personal power to possess different types of bodies. As long as the spirit soul is covered by the subtle body, consisting of mind, intelligence, and false ego, he is bound to be the results of fruitive activities. Because of this covering, the spirit soul is connected with the material energy and most accordingly suffer material conditions and reversals continually, life after life. It is fruitless to see and talk of the material modes of nature and their resultant so-called happiness and distress as if they were factual. When the mind wanders during the day and a man begins to think himself extremely important, or when he dreams at night and sees a beautiful woman enjoying with him, these are merely false dreams. Similarly, the happiness and distress caused by the material sense should be understood to be meaningless. They are all like a dream. Life is like a dream of Maya. Those who have full knowledge of self realization, who know very well that spirit soul is eternal, whereas the body is perishable, are not overwhelmed by lamentation. But persons who lack the knowledge of the self realization certainly lament. Therefore, it is difficult to educate a person in illusion. There was once a hunter who lured the birds and with food and captured them after spreading a net. He lived as if appointed by death personified as the killer of the birds. He was living like a killer of the birds. When and wandering in the forest, the hunter saw a pair of kulinga birds. Of the two, the female was captivated by the hunter's lure. O queens of Suyajna, the male Kulinga bird, seeing his wife but into the greatest danger in the grip of Providence, became very unhappy. Because of affection, the poor bird, being unable to realize her, began to lament for his wife. Alas, how merciless is Providence! My wife, unable to be helped by anyone, is in such an awkward position and lamenting for me. What will Providence gain by taking away this poor bird? What will be the profit? If unkind Providence takes away my wife, who is half my body, why should he not take me also? What is the use of me living with half of my body, bereaved by loss of my wife? What shall I gain in this way? The unfortunate baby birds, bereft of their mother, are waiting in the nest of her to feed them. They are still very small and have not yet grown their wings. How shall I be able to maintain them? Because of the loss of his wife, the Kulinga bird lamented with tears in his eyes. Meanwhile, following the dictations of mature time, the hunter, who was very carefully hidden in the distance, released his arrow, which pierced the body of the Kulinga bird and killed him. Thus, Yamaraja, in the guise of a small boy, told all the queens, "You are all so foolish that you lament but do not see your own death, afflicted by a poor fund of knowledge. You do not know that even if you lament for your dead husband for hundreds of years, you will never get him back alive. And in the meantime, your lives will be finished." Yamaraja once asked Maharaja Yudhishthira, "What is the most wonderful thing within this world?" Maharaja Yudhishthira says, "Hundreds of thousands of living entities meet death at every moment, but a foolish living being nonetheless thinks himself deathless and does not prepare for death. This is the most wonderful thing in this world. Everyone has to die because everyone is fully under the control of material nature, and everyone thinks that he is independent, that whatever he likes, he can do." This is the most wonderful thing in the world. Everyone has died because everyone is fully under the control of material nature. And everyone thinks that he is independent, that whatever he likes, he can do. That he will never meet death but live forever, and so on. So-called scientists are making various plans by which living entities in the future can live forever. But while they are thus pursuing such scientific knowledge, Yamaraja in due course of time will take them away from their business of so-called research. Hiranyakashipu said, while Amaraja, in the form of a small boy, was instructing all the relatives surrounded by the dead body of Suyajna. Everyone was struck with wonder by his philosophical words. They could understand that everything material is temporary, not continuing not continuing to exist. After instructing all the foolish relatives, Suyajna, Yamaraja, in the form of a boy, disappeared from their vision. Then the relatives of the king Suyajna performed the ritualistic funeral ceremonies. Therefore, none of you should be grieved or aggrieved for the loss of the body, whether loss own or loss for others. Only in ignorance does one make bodily distinctions, thinking, who am I? Who are the others? What is mine? What is for others? Like that, mind keep on asking questions after questions to the materialistic people. Sri Narada Muni continued, Diti, the mother of Hiranyakashipu, and Hiranyaksha heard the instructions of Hiranyakashipu along with her daughter-in-law Rusabhanu, Hiranyaksha's wife, is Rusabhanu. She then forgot her grief over her son's death and thus engaged her mind and attention in understanding the real philosophy of life. So, Hiranyakashipu, king of demons, when a relative dies, one certainly becomes very much interested in philosophy. But when funeral ceremony is over, once again becomes attentive to materialism. Even daityas, who are materialistic persons, sometimes think of philosophy and sometimes relate to death. The technical term for this attitude of materialistic person is smashana vairagya, or detachment in a cemetery or a place of cremation. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, 4 classes of men receive an understanding of spiritual life and God. Artha, the distressed; Jijnasu, the inquisitive; Artharthi, one who desires material gains; Jnani, one who is searching for knowledge. Especially one is very much distressed by material conditions. One becomes interested in God. Therefore, Kunti Devi said in her prayers to Krishna that she performed distress to a happy mode of life. In the material world, one who is happy forgets Krishna or God. But sometimes, if one is actually pious but in distress, he remembers the Krishna. Queen Kunti Devi therefore referred distress because it is an opportunity for remembering Krishna. When Krishna was leaving Kunti Devi for his own country, Kunti Devi regretfully said that she was better off in distress because Krishna was always present in the distress time. Krishna was going away. For a devotee, distress is an opportunity to remember the Supreme Person of Godhead, according to Kunti. Because in Kannada they say, Sankata Bandhare Venkatramana. That means when you are in distress, when you are in difficulty, remember Venkatramana. Otherwise, you don't. This is the way they talk. This ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of 7th canto, 2nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavath Mahapuran, entitled Hiranyakashipu, the King of Demands. The next chapter 3, Hiranyakashipu's plan to become immortal. Hiranyakashipu wants to become immortal. Nobody can kill him. That sort of immortality he wants. In this chapter, describes how Hiranyakashipu performed a severe type of austerity for a material benefit of living permanent, thus causing great distress throughout the universe. Even Lord Brahma, the chief personality with this universe, became somewhat disturbed and personally went to see why Hiranyakashipu was engaged in this sort of austerity. Narada Muni said to Maharaja Yudhishthira, the demonic king Hiranyakashipu wanted to be unconquerable and free from old age and dwindling of the body. He wanted to gain all the yogic perfections like many anima lagima, to be deathless and to be the only king of the entire universe, including Brahmaloka. Such are the goals of austerities performed by demons. Hiraynakashipu wanted to receive a benediction from Lord Brahma so that in the future he would be able to conquer Lord Brahma's abode. Similarly, another demon received a benediction from Lord Shiva, but later wanted to kill Lord Shiva through that same benediction. That's Bhasmasura. When Bhasmasura got a boon that if he puts a hand on anybody, they will be dead. That's why he wanted to try on Lord Shiva himself. He ran behind Shiva to put his hand on the top of the head. At that time, Lord Vishnu came as a Mohini and diverted the attention of Bhasmasura. And while dancing, Mohini kept her own hand on the top of the head. Like that, demon also did that, and he killed himself because Lord Shiva given a boon that if he keeps in his hand anybody's head, he will die. That's what he did himself. That is called the demonic austerity. Want to kill even when they're benedictors, whereas the Vaishnava wants to remain an ever existing servant of the Lord and never to occupy the post of the Lord. Through Satya, through Sayujya Mukti, which is generally demanded by asuras, or merges into the existence of the Lord. But although one sometimes thus achieves the goal of the theory of monism, one falls down again to struggle in material existence. In the valley of Mandara Hill, Hiraynakashipu began performing his austerities by standing with his toes on the ground, keeping his arms upward and looking toward the sky. The position was extremely difficult, but he accepted it as means to attain perfection. From the hair of an Hiranyakashipu's head, there emanated an effulgent light as brilliant and intolerable as the rays of the sun at the time of dissolution. Seeing the performance of such a austerity and penance, the gods who had been wandering throughout the planets now returned to their respective homes. Because of the Hiranyakashipu's severe austerities, fire came from his head, and this fire and its smoke spread throughout the sky, encompassing the upper and lower planets, which all became extremely hot because of the fire. Because of the power of his severe austerities, all the rivers and oceans were agitated. The surface of the globe, with its mountains and islands, began trembling, and the stars and planets fell. All the directions were began. Scorched and extremely disturbed because of Hiranyakashipu's severe penances, all the gods left the planets where they reside and went to the planet of Lord Brahma, where they informed the Creator as follows: O Lord Brahma, the God of gods, O Master of the universe, because of the fire emanating from Hiranyakashipu's head as a result of his severe austerity, we have become so disturbed, and that we could not stay in our planets but have come to you. O great person, chief of the universe, if you think it proper, kindly stop these disturbances meant to destroy everything before all your obedient subjects are annihilated. Hiranyakashipu was undertaken a most severe type of austerity. Although his plan is not unknown to you, kindly listen as we submit his intentions. The Supreme Person within the universe, Lord Brahma, has gotten his exalted post by dint of severe austerities, mystic power, and trance. Consequently, after creating the universe, he has become the most worshipable God within it. Consequently, after creating the universe, he has become the most worshipable God, Brahma, within it. Since I am eternal and time is eternal, I shall endure for such austerity, mystic power, and trance for many, many births and thus I shall occupy the same post occupied by Lord Brahma. By dint of my severe austerities, I shall reverse the results of pious and impious activities. I shall overturn all the established practices within the world. Even Dhruvaloka will be vanquished at the end of the millennium. Therefore, what is the use of it? I shall prefer to remain in the position of Brahmaloka. Hiranyakashipu's demonic determination was explained to Lord Brahma by the gods, who informed him that Hiranyakashipu wanted to overturn all the established principles, Vedic principles, and the Yajnashala. After executing severe austerities, people within the material world are promoted to the heavenly planets, but Hiranyakashipu wanted them to be unhappy, suffering because of the diplomatic feelings of the demigods or other gods. Even in the heavenly planets, he wanted those who were harassed in this world by material transactions to be unhappy for the same reason. Even in the heavenly planets, indeed, he wanted to introduce such harassment everywhere. One might ask how this was possible, how this would be possible, since the universal order has been established since the time immemorial. O Lord, we have heard, the gods are telling the Brahma, O Lord, we have heard from reliable sources that in order to obtain your post, Hiranyakashipu is now engaged in severe austerity. You are the master of the three worlds. Please, without delay, take whatever steps you deem appropriate. O Lord Brahma, your position within this universe is certainly most auspicious for everyone, especially the cows and brahmanas. Brahmanical culture and the protection of cows can be increasingly glorified, and thus all kinds of material happiness, opulence, and good fortune will automatically increase. But unfortunately, if Hiranyakashipu occupies your seat, everything will be lost. O king, being thus informed by the gods, the most powerful Lord Brahma, accompanied by Bhrigu, Daksha, and other great sages, immediately started for the place where Hiranyakashipu was performing his penance and austerities. Lord Brahma, who is carried by a swan Vahana, at first could not see where Hiranyakashipu was. For Hiranyakashipu's body was covered by an anthill and by grass and bamboo sticks. Because Hiranyakashipu had been there for a long time, the ants had devoured his skin, fat, flesh, and blood. Then Lord Brahma and the demigods spotted him, resembling a cloud-covered sun, heating all the world by his austerity. Struck with wonder, Lord Brahma began to smile and then addressed him as follows. Now Lord Brahma came to Hiranyakashipu and is addressing. Lord Brahma said, O son of Kashyapa Muni, please get up, please get up. All good fortune unto you. You are now perfect in the performance of your austerities, and therefore I may give you a benediction. Vara. You may now ask from me whatever you desire, and I shall try to fulfill your wish. I have been much more astonished to see your endurance. In spite of being eaten and bitten by all kinds of worms and ants, you are still keeping your life air circulating within your bones. Certainly, this is wonderful. It appears that the soul can exist even through the bones, as shown by the personal example of Hiranyakashipu. When great yogis are in samadhi, even when their bodies are buried and their skin, marrow, blood, and so on have all been eaten, if only their bones remain, they can exist in a transcendental position, very necessarily in a transcendental position. Very recently, an archaeologist published findings indicating that Lord Christ, after being buried, was exhumed and that he then went to Kashmir. There he became, there he having there have been many ritual examples, actual examples of yogis being buried in trance and exhumed alive and in good condition several hours later. A yogi can keep himself alive in the transcendental state even if buried not only for the many days but for many years. Even saintly persons like Bhrigu, born previously, could not perform such a severe austerities, nor will anyone in the future be able to do so. Who within these three worlds can sustain his life without even drinking a water for 100 celestial years. It appears that even if a yogi does not drink a drop of water, he can live for many years by the yogic process, though his outer body be eaten by ants and moths. My dear son of Diti, with your great determination and austerity, you have done what was impossible even for a great saintly person, and thus I have certainly been conquered by you. O best of the Asuras, for this reason I am now prepared to give you all benedictions according to your desire. I belong to the celestial world of gods who do not die like human beings. Therefore, although you are the subject of death, your audience with me will not go in vain. Sri Narada Muni continued, after speaking these words of Hiraynakashipu, Lord Brahma, the original being of this universe, who is extremely powerful, sprinkled transcendental, infallible, spiritual water from his kamandalo upon Hiranyakashipu's body, which had been eaten by ants, hill, and moths. Thus he enlivened Hiranyakashipu. As soon as he was sprinkled the water from his kamandalo, water part, Hiranyakashipu aroused, endowed with full body and limbs so strong that they could bear in striking of a thunderbolt, with a physical strength and bodily luster resembling molten gold. He emerged from the anthill completely young man, just as fire springs from fuel wood. So Hiranyakashipu was revitalized, so much so that his body was quite captured to tolerate the striking of thunderbolts. He was now a young man with a strong body and a very beautiful bodily luster resembling the molten gold. This is the rejuvenation of so Hiranyakashipu revitalized. Hiranyakashipu, as soon as he sprinkled the water from Lord Brahma's kamandalo, Hiranyakashipu arose endowed with a full body with the limbs as so strong that could bear the striking of a thunderbolt. With physical strength and bodily luster resembling a molten gold, he emerged from the anthill completely young man, just as fire springs from a firewood. Seeing Lord Brahma present before him in the sky, carried by his swan, Hiranyakashipu was extremely pleased. He immediately felt flat with his head on the ground and began to express his obligation to the Lord. Whatever a man may sacrifice to other gods, O son of Kunti, is really meant for me alone, but it is offered without true understanding. I am the only enjoyer and the only object of sacrifice in the Mahabharata Purana. Those who do not recognize the true transcendental nature of the God. In effect, Krishna says persons engaged in worship of other gods are not very intelligent, although such worship is indirectly offered to Lord Krishna only. Then getting up from the ground and seeing Lord Brahma before him, the head of Daityas, Hiraynakashipu, was overwhelmed by jubilation. With tears in his eyes, his whole body shivering, he began praying the humble mood, with folded hands and a faltering voice to satisfy the Lord Brahma. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord within this universe. At the end of each day of his life, the universe is really fully recovered. At the end of each day of his life, the universe is fully covered with dense darkness by the influence of time and again. The body of Hiraynakashipu fully recovered with the dense darkness of influence of the time, and then again during his next day, the self-effulgent Lord, by his own effulgence, manifests, maintains, and destroys the entire cosmic manifestations through the material energy, which is invested with the three modes of material nature. The Lord Brahma is the shelter of those modes of nature, Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna. I offer my obeisances to the original personality within this universe, Lord Brahma, who is cognizant and who can apply his mind and realized intelligence in creating this cosmic manifestation. It is because of his activities that everything within the universe is visible. He is therefore the cause of all manifestations. Your Lordship, being the origin of the life of this material world, is the master and controller of living entities, both moving and stationary, and you inspire their consciousness. You maintain the mind and acting and knowledge acquiring senses, and therefore you are the great controller of all the material elements. And they question, you are the control of all desires. Lord Hiraynakashipu says to Lord Brahma, you are the control of the desires. My dear Lord, by your form as the Veda personified and through knowledge relating to the activities of all Vedic Yajnik Brahmins, you spread the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies of the 7 kinds of sacrifices headed by Agnistoma. Indeed, you inspire the Yajnik Brahmins to perform the rituals mentioned in the 3 Vedas. Being the super soul of all living enemies, you are the beginningless, endless and beginningless. Being the super soul of all living entities, you are the beginningless, endless, and omniscient, beyond the limits of time and space. That's what Lord Hiraynakashipu praises Brahma. O my Lord, your Lordship is eternally awake, seeing everything that happens as eternal time. You reduce the duration of life for all living entities through your different parts, such as moments, seconds, minutes, and hours. Nonetheless, you are unchained, resting in one place as the Super Soul, Witness, and Supreme Lord, the birthplaces of all pervading controller, who is the cause of life for all living entities. There is nothing separate from you, whether it is better or lower, stationary or moving. The knowledge derived from the Vedic literatures like the Upanishads and from all the sub-limbs of the original Vedic knowledge form your eternal external body, your Hiranyagarbha, the reservoir of the universe, and but nonetheless being situated as the supreme controller, you are transcendental to the material world. The material world consists of 3 modes of material nature, Sattva-guna, Rajasika-guna, Tamasika-guna. O my Lord, being changelessly situated in your own abode, you expand your universal form within this cosmic manifestation, thus appearing to taste the material world. You are Brahman, the super soul, the oldest the personality of Godhead. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme, who in his unlimited, unmanifested form has expanded the cosmic manifestation, the form of the totality of the universe. He possesses external and internal energies and a mixed energy called the marginal potency, which consists of all the living entities. O my Lord, O best of the givers of benediction, if you will kindly grant me the benediction I desire, please let me not meet the death from any of the living entities created by you. Grant me that I not die within any residence or outside of any residence, during the daytime or at the night, nor on the ground nor in the sky. Grant me that my death not be brought by any being other than those created by you, nor by any weapon, nor by any human being or animal. Grant me that I not meet death from any entity living or non-living. Grant me further that I am not be killed. I'm not to be killed by any god or demon, or by any great snake from the lower planets. Since no one can kill you in the battlefield, you have no competitor. Therefore, grant me the benediction that I too have no rival. Give me sole lordship over all the living entities and presiding deities, and give me all the glories obtained by that position. Furthermore, give me all the mystic powers attained by long austerities and practice of yoga, for these cannot be lost at any time. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of 7th canto, 3rd chapter of the Srimad Mahabhagavata Purana, entitled Episodes of Hiraynakashipu, Plan to Become Immortal. So it is his ambition to become immortal. And that's how there ends the episode of Hiraynakashipu. And so he got his blessings from Brahma, and after his boon coming from Brahma, he started his atrocities and against his own son and against devotees of Lord Narayana, and that we are going to read in the tomorrow, the next chapter. Thank you very much. नमोस्तु अनंताय सहस्रमूर्तये सहस्रपादाक्षरपादसहस्रनाम्ने पुरुषाश्रुते सहस्रकोटियुगधारिणे नमः आकाशात् परितं यदागत सागरं सर्वदे नमस्कारः श्रीकेशवं प्रगत्यो नमः सर्ववेदेशत्पुण्यं सर्वतीर्थेषु यत्फलं तत्फलं पुरुषमाप्तवासनात् वासुदेवस्य वासन्ते जयत्रयं सर्वभूतनिवासोऽसि वासुदेव नमस्तुते वासुदेव नमोस्तुते कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियेण वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि नारायण समर्पयामि हरि ओम तत्सत्।